My father scourged you with whips. I will scourge you with scorpions. Rehoboam got his dad's selfish bug, his prideful bug, his indulgent bug. If you read much of the Old Testament, you're going to find there's one book in there that Solomon wrote called Proverbs, which is a whole bunch of wise sayings. There's another book in there that Solomon wrote called the Song of Songs, or the Song of Solomon, depending on the version of the Bible you have. And it is a love song to at least one of the 1,000 women that he was with. And it's a very beautiful love song, definitely. Yeah. But he also wrote this other book called Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes is a story where he says, I searched the world over for something that would fill my soul. I sought through fame. I sought things that would give me pleasure. I filled my life with hedonistic pleasures of every sort and came out empty. And at the end of the book, he says, this is what it all boils down to. Fear God and keep his commandments. And that's all that we've really got. It's kind of a sad way to end, but at the very least, he recognizes that there's nothing of substance in this world except your walk with God. And that was a good ending point, but check it out. His hedonistic journey through his life passed into his sons, passed into his family. And the image on the outside left a huge vacancy just below the surface. Rehoboam was such a loser that after he spoke to people, the people harshly like this. They mutinied against him. And more than half of the kingdom split off and followed a man named Jeroboam. And the nation of Israel was never unified again after this moment. Solomon, the greatest, wisest, richest king of all time, and his own son couldn't keep the kingdom together. When Jen and I lived in Chicago, we were in a parsonage/apartment type building. It's called a two-flat. It's a building with a basement and then a floor here that's an apartment and then a second floor that's also an apartment. We lived on the second floor. And from the moment we moved into the place, there was kind of an odd smell that would come wafting through the house. It wasn't the smell of, anything rotting or anything dead or anything like that. It was the smell of just kind of dust. Some type of dusty, musty kind of smell. Now, the basement definitely smelled like the musty kind of smell that basements kind of have sometimes. But up on the second floor, there was some funny kind of smell. And for the 5 years we lived there, we spent every month, at least one of us was going to the doctor. Most often it was two of us going to the doctor every single month. And we would go there over and over again, ear infections, sinus infections, nose infections, every kind of infections, whatever. And it was just repeated. In fact, Charlie had so many ear infections when he was a kid that we think his hearing might have been damaged a little bit as a result. And so we were living in that house, feeling the sick effects of that house somehow for months and months and months, until finally, when they were talking about selling the place, we brought in a mold inspector, and he found out that the place was riddled with mold. And this is the thing, during the time we were there, we kind of had some guesses that there was some mold in the place. Kind of thought so. And so we thought it might have been a problem with water leaking, so we had the outside walls re-tuck pointed. That's when they take all the grout in between the bricks and they cut it out and then they put in new stuff. So we had the outside walls tuck pointed. That sealed off the rain so that it didn't leak into our house anymore like it had done. And that helped, I guess, maybe a little bit. But once the mold guy came, he pulled back the carpet. And there were sections of the wood floorboards that were just absolutely covered with this black stuff. And down in the basement, there were sections of walls that were just full and infested with that kind of black mold stuff. And they pulled off some wall plaster, and in behind the wall, there was mold everywhere. The place was just absolutely toxic. And it wasn't until they began to decide, we don't care what things look like, we're going to start ripping things apart, that they were able to see where the problem was and begin to deal with it. And for the last few months we lived there, my daughter got sick once, and that was it. Image isn't everything. And in the same way, families, if we try to deal with the external things, the tuck pointing, the vacuuming, the cleaning, whatever, we may miss a cancer that is growing just beneath the surface in your life. And so I'm going to tell you one of the most important principles of all Scripture, okay? Here it is. It's going to be up on the screen. Fill this out. No matter where we come from or where we are now, we are not smart enough to lead healthy families. This is one of the most important principles of Scripture because Solomon was the wisest guy ever. And his own son couldn't keep a kingdom together for more than a couple years. I mean, it's tragic that this guy would miss the boat by so far. But if he could miss the boat by so far, why should we think we're any different? It's unbelievable that we think we really know how to do this stuff. And so when we face those circumstances and we come to the end of our rope, we just put another layer of lacquer on the outside and pretty everything up and we'll be better. Do you know why Solomon missed the boat? He forgot something that happened in his life way early on. Right after Solomon became the king, something amazing happened. I want to take you there now. It's in 1 Kings chapter 3. So go ahead and flip back to page 234 again. And I want you to see this amazing story. It's from verse 5 through 15. At Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon during the night in a dream. And God said, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." Solomon answered, "You have shown great kindness to your servant, my father David, because he was faithful to you and righteous and upright in heart. You've continued this great kindness to him and have given him a son to sit on his throne this very day. Now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David, but I am only a little child and do not know how to carry out my duties. Your servant is here among the people you've chosen, a great people, too numerous to count or number. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours?" The Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this. So God said to him, "Since you have asked for this and not for long life or wealth for yourself, nor have asked for the death of your enemies, but for discernment in administering justice, I will do what you've asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be. Moreover, I will give you what you have not asked for, both riches and honor, so that in your lifetime you will have no equal among kings. And if you walk in my ways and obey my statutes and commands as David your father did, I will give you